Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to take a few minutes to invite you to notice what emotions you experience in three different time frames. And the first time frame is before you go to work. The second time frame is during work, and the third time frame is after work or about when you're about to leave work. And so with that, I want to introduce you to this very familiar Dr. Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. Now, there are 32 different emotions here out of the many, possibly thousands of different emotions that you can potentially experience. But I just want you to focus on these 32 different emotions here and notice once again which emotions you experience prior to coming to work, which emotions you experience while at work, and which emotions you experience while you get ready to leave your place of employ. Now, these emotions, they are quite simple perhaps, but they each have a different interpretation for you and I, for you and your peers, for you and other members of different business units. Each emotion allows us to take some sort of action. That is to say, they're going to predispose us to taking a certain kind of action. Those emotions, for example, of joy versus fear are going to lead to totally different actions or totally different possible actions that we are going to undertake. In an earlier video, I mentioned that the underlying goal within any organization is to create trust. And trust is generated through actions. All of the actions that you take as an employee, that you take as a valuable member of your organization, they are going to build up over time into that emotion of trust, into that mood of trust. And that mood of trust is that kind of bond, kind of a non-verbal contract that exists between you and your employer, and conversely, vice versa, between your employer and yourself. Now, this bond of trust is built up by all of the actions that you take within your team, by all of the actions that your team takes within the business unit, within the departments within the business unit, and so on and so forth. This is going to translate itself into the amount of trust that a potential customer, that a potential client is going to perceive the organization with. So the greater the trust that the organization has externally, the greater the sales, the greater the bottom line, and the happier the shareholders. And on the other side, the greater the trust that the organization has, the greater the trust that the employees are going to have. So this is an emotion of trust. This is a mood of trust that is built conversation after conversation, action after action, and so on and so forth. So that's why I invite you to once again take a look at this wheel of emotions and see how it is that these emotions that you experience, number one, before coming into work, number two, while at work, and number three, while you're leaving work. How do these groups of emotions, how do they actually contribute to the bottom line? And how do they actually help either increase trust or decrease trust? Now, I realize that this may be potentially a philosophical question, but it has very, very real concrete results, because these results are the actions that you are going to take. And as an example, let me illustrate a meeting. You attend a meeting, and in the meeting, you are given a few action steps that you are required to take. Now, as you leave that meeting with your designated action steps, you've probably felt a certain kind of emotion, or you've brought a certain kind of emotion with you for the day at work, or you've experienced a certain kind of emotion during the day, or maybe the meeting's held near the end of the day and you're experiencing a certain different kind of emotion as you're ready to wind down your day at the office. How likely are you going to tackle your action steps? That is to say, how committed will you be to taking care of those action steps depending upon that emotion that you experience before, during, and after the meeting? And the reason I ask this, and I think this is important, is your commitment to the actions that you are required to fulfill. These are your duties and obligations that you have with your organization. The commitment that you have toward these actions, toward these action steps that you are required to take care of, how successful will they be based upon the emotions that you bring to the table? And I want to point this out, and not to single you out or anything, but to mention that you just like every single other participant in that meeting is a human being, and so they too are going to experience emotions. You see how emotions, each one of us is going to experience them. Each one of us is going to interpret them in a unique way that we know how, and each one of us is going to have another kind of nuanced interpretation to it, depending upon the level of trust that we have with our peers, depending upon the level of trust that we have with our managers, depending upon the level of trust that we have with our business unit, depending upon the level of trust that we have within the organization. All of these are going to influence the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of commitment that you have when you take actions that, number one, that you're obligated to, and number two, that you want to take to improve and create a new, better, more satisfactory outcome for yourself within the organization. Once again, just to quickly review, let's go back to Dr. Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. The exercise was to identify which of these emotions you experience before going into work, which of these emotions you experience during work, and which of these emotions you experience prior to leaving for work. And of course, that can be taken into, say, which of these emotions did you experience before going into the meeting, which of these emotions did you experience during the meeting, and which of these emotions did you experience after you left with your action steps. So once again, emotions in the workplace are extremely important because you are a human being, you are experiencing an emotion, and you are also interpreting an emotion. Those emotions lend themselves to actions that you are going to take that will either have a positive or negative or mixed result, depending on how well you engage with an emotion of commitment to those actions that you are obligated to do, or that you want to do to improve the bottom line perhaps, or some other goal that you have within the organization. I hope this has been helpful to give you an idea of how significant emotions are in the workplace, how significant emotions are to communication within the workplace, and how significant emotions are to creating another emotion of commitment to furthering your bottom line at the organization, or to furthering the organization's bottom line. Take care of yourself, have a beautiful day, and please don't forget to comment and share below. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.